Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the channel. I am your host, Baron Imperius. For today's project, I will be building a series of ruined walls. I have previously built a set for use as scatter terrain for my D&D campaigns. They are very useful not only as partial cover or obstacles during combat, but can be used to outline a building's location in an exterior scene or where the walls of a room are for an interior scene. They are very versatile, so this is a great opportunity to make more. I will be using the following materials: foam board or XPS foam, thick cardstock or thin cardboard, PVA glue, in this case Mod Podge, acrylic hobby paints in the shades of black, medium gray, pale gray, and white, my pre-made dirty wash, an acrylic sealant spray, in this case also Mod Podge brand. I will also be using the following tools: a hobby knife or crafting knife, cutting board or cutting mat, ruler, texturing tools such as aluminum foil, rocks, and a plastic bottle, as well as various paint brushes and water for cleaning said brushes. After gathering the necessary tools and materials, I can begin by cutting out what will be the bases for the walls. For the shape of the base, I tend to favor an L shape, which improves their stability over a straight wall. Other shapes like T, Z, or I might be interesting for a future project, or perhaps even curved walls. The sizes I will be going for will be 4 1x3 inch, 4 2x2 inch, and 2 3x6 inch portions, with an even split of the L shape going clockwise and counterclockwise. My previous walls were 2 3x6 inch and 4 2x4 portions. This way I should have a decent selection to choose from for future encounters. The width of the base is about 1/4 inch. I prefer keeping the base as thin as possible to try to prevent it from potentially interfering with any terrain or miniatures that could be placed next to it. Once I finish with the base, I can proceed with the bricklaying. I will be using two methods for the stones. The first method is how I built my ruined walls originally. I keep a tub of stone bricks made from the foam scraps of previous builds. There are rather mixed bags of sizes, different lengths, widths, heights. Most have already been textured as well. From these assorted bricks, I simply go through and pick the ones that seem to fit together relatively well without being too persnickety. I glue down about 4 to 6 rows of stones, gradually making each row a little smaller and adding gaps in the higher rows to further the appearance of it being the remains of a much taller wall. Overall, the height should range from between about waist high to shoulder height for a 28mm to 32mm scale miniature. The second method uses the spare bricks, well, sparingly. Instead, I cut out each individual row of the wall as a strip of foam, then cut that strip into mostly uniform bricks. Once cut into individual bricks, the entire row goes into my makeshift texturizer, a plastic pill bottle with a couple of rolled up balls of aluminum foil and small rocks. After being sufficiently agitated, the foam should be mildly textured and the edges softened up a bit. Once this is complete, I now glue down the entire row. I repeat with each row, again making each higher row a little bit smaller, as well as adding gaps to further the ruined appearance.
Sometime later.
With the walls completed and the glue dry, I can compare the two methods so far. Method 1 appears to be much more haphazard than the second method. This gives the impression that the first wall was initially built or later patched by people less skilled than those that built or repaired the second. Perhaps the first wall was built from stone salvaged from older ruins, but now fallen into neglect itself. I look forward to seeing how the differences may affect the paint job. That being said, time to paint. First, I apply a base coat of black paint. It's always good to go over the project again after the initial coat dries, being sure that all the nooks and crannies have an even coat.
Sometime even later.
After the black base coats are dry, I can begin dry brushing, building up layers of progressively lighter shades of gray. The first layer to dry brush on will be medium gray, which can be a little bit thicker and heavy compared to the next few layers. The second layer to be dry brushed on will be pale gray, and the third and final layer will be a very light brushing of white. Each layer needs a progressively lighter touch so as not to drown out any of the shades from the previous layers. I believe this adds a great deal of depth to my terrain builds. Once all of the dry brush layers are finished and dry, I can now apply the dirty wash. If you haven't seen any of my previous videos, it is a homemade wash. The basic formula is just a few drops of black and dark brown acrylic paint that has been heavily watered down with a drop or two of dish soap added to it. I apply this wash over the terrain, being sure to get an even coverage and making sure that no large pools of it develop on any particular area. Once the dirty wash dries, now I can apply the acrylic sealant. Make sure to do this in a well-ventilated area, preferably outside. The sealant will help protect the paint from dust, moisture, and other things that might damage it over time. Now that the project is finished, time to review both methods. Overall, the walls made using Method 1 have a random, haphazard appearance to them, which is visually rich with a lot more variety in the pattern of the stonework. On very close inspection, I do notice that there are a few gaps that could do with some sort of filler, perhaps some lightweight spackle. Filling in the gaps will help to prevent the stones in the build from looking weightless. Meanwhile, the walls built using Method 2 are much more uniform, suggesting either being built by a skilled craftsman or having more recently fallen to ruin. I would definitely use this method to build walls that haven't been broken or neglected. It does take a little more time than using scraps from between projects, but it also looks very neat and professional. Overall, I like both methods and see the merits of each depending on what results are desired. Do you have a preference? Go ahead and share your thoughts down in the comments below. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video, or at least found it useful. If you did, please like the video or leave a comment. And if you want to see my future videos, go ahead and subscribe and ring that bell. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video and are perhaps inspired to build scatter terrain for your own tabletop games. I have been your host, Baron Imperius, and I hope you go out and build your fantasy.